And as you probably got just a message right now that this message is also being recorded, so that if there are some people who missed it out, you can later watch it on our YouTube channel. But welcome everyone. Thank you so much for dialing in today. And this is a new event in our series, the Coffee Sessions with CEO. And I'm very glad to welcome here with us today Dominik Schumacher, who is the CEO of Tubulis. He's based in München, Germany. And I'm happy to see so many people dialing in from Germany today as well. And he was awarded as one of the MIT Innovators under 35. He's also a life science investor and has been actively investing in young European biotech companies, and also acts on the advisory network of Schering Stiftung. And before co-founding this startup, he was also working as a group leader at Ludwig Maximilians University in München, and he got his PhD from Humboldt University in Berlin, and has been studying chemistry and economics in Heinrich Heine University in Düsseldorf. And I remember from my days when I was also studying chemistry, my professor used to say that those people who have been studying chemistry, they know how to arrange and create new molecules and compounds. They can create anything. So we're happy to see that from the molecules, we have now gone into bigger movers and shakers into the startup world. And nowadays, his company Tubulis is reimagining antibody drug conjugates. I hope I pronounced it right. Yeah. But as I don't know that much about what exactly that is, so Dominik will be giving us a brief presentation, what he's up to. And then afterwards, we can do a Q&A where you, everyone dialing in today, Anna-Marie, Miriam, Liana, Sufiana, and all others, you can ask questions from Dominik. So let's get it started. Dominik, floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Actually, I didn't know that you studied chemistry. That is super cool. Anyway, I will quickly, so my idea was that I quickly tell you a little bit about Tubulis, what we do, and also the journey that we did from actually getting it from an academic project into then being able to raise some money from venture capital to actually scale the company and move forward clinical trials. And I will now quickly share my screen, and then I think from that we will jump into the discussions right away. So Tubulis is, as we already heard, is all about antibody-drug conjugates. And antibody-drug conjugates are is a molecule format actually that has been around for quite a while. And the idea is that you take chemotherapeutic agents or payloads, potent payloads, and combine them with an antibody. And the antibody is able to detect a tumor molecule inside a body, a target on the tumor molecule, on the tumor cell, and then you have basically a delivery of these chemotherapeutic, highly potent payload to that tumor site. So in the best situation, you could imagine that these ADCs, antibody-drug conjugates, enable the tumor cell is killed and all healthy cells inside the body remain unharmed. That is the principal idea behind the molecule, and this is what we try to develop on, and where we have actually developed quite significant platforms to improve these molecules, and I will come a little bit to that. But as I mentioned, it has already been around for quite a while, and actually the first ADC, the idea of generating these targeted therapies using antibodies is quite old, and the first publication that I found is dating back to the 60s. But the first approval was actually made in the year 2000, a molecule called Mylotarg. And then it took 17 years for another 3 molecules to actually get approved. Mylotarg was was in the meantime taken from the market again because of toxicities, and then it got reapproved because nothing better was actually showing up. And since 2017, or actually since 2019, we really see a lot of momentum in the field. There are a lot of approvals in that field. There's been tremendous amount of learnings, what actually it needs to build these molecules. But I think what you can really see from this time ranges also is that it's not really easy, and there's a lot of things to consider when you generate these molecules. And even today, there's still, I would say, these molecules do not fulfill the promise of being an actual targeted therapy. One of the latest approvals, Trodelvy, is showing good efficacy, but it's really, it has side effects that are really, really strong. People call it offensive chemotherapy and not a really true targeted therapy. And also in a molecule that is longer on the market, etc., has problems with peripheral neuropathy that is coming up. And this is even more severe than for chemotherapy. So there's still room of improvement to really fulfill and ensure that the payload is delivered to the cancer cell. It's not making too much harm in the rest of the body. And this is where we position Tubulis, and we are building a pipeline on that. But this is just how we differentiate, and what we believe is really important. You really have to be able to combine the individual components, so antibody, a payload, and a linker in the best fitting way for the individual indication. And we have a platform that enables us to do that. And now we have raised our Series A in 2022 last year, and we use that to really mature Tubulis into a clinical stage company. We have these platforms that are already mentioned. We develop them further. We have been able to really generate strong data showing the superiority of our platform and the assets that we have. And we now have 4 ADC assets that we move towards the clinics. And of course, all of that is not possible with an amazing team. And I'm really fortunate to be working with just amazing co-founders, especially this gentleman here and this gentleman here. But Jonas, he has been, as our CSO, he has been with me in the journey from the very beginning. And I'm super grateful that he's joining, that we do this journey together. It would be probably impossible to do alone without him. So we have a growing team of 15. We are growing our senior management, and something that I also, which is really important to us, is to work together with international advisors that are as excited about our company and our platform and our molecules, and see the same potential for actually making a change for patients in need, similar to that we do. And this is, it's just great to be working in such an environment. And now I want to quickly tell you a little bit about what actually we did and how it all started. And it started as a academic collaboration. These are really old pictures of us. And I was working back then at the Leibniz Institute in Berlin, and Jonas was working at the LMU Munich. And again, it was an academic collaboration, and we have been thrown into one pot, so to say, together to develop novel bioconjugation technologies. It was a DFG-funded project, and from these two institutes, and it was going quite well. And what we actually were able to develop is two different technologies, but one is this TubTech technology that we call, and it's just able to functionalize biomolecules with payloads. We make use of a very special feature from microtubule biology to stabilize these molecules to ensure that the ADCs can actually deliver their payload to the target. And I don't want to go into further detail now of this technology, but what I really want to mention is that the technology development went really well in the academic setting. And that's why actually one day Jonas and I, we made independently the decision to call each other, asking, hey, do you want to try to get this in a translational setting? That doesn't even have to be a startup at that stage in time, but just try to get this translated because we were seeing really great potential. And then, of course, at that time, we also really started to think about filing patents, securing the technology, and needed to learn also this completely new language, so to say, how you write patents. And what I really want to highlight here is that I truly believe it's super important. If you go down that road, you need to be the one controlling, being aware of what your patents are all about. You're working together with a patent attorney, of course, but the patents can only get as good as you can actually get the patent attorney to understand what it's all about, and it's your responsibility. So really important area, and you need to be knowing the patent space, and you need to be knowing how you actually work with patents, and all you also get them into your company. This is one of the most important things, I believe. So then we did this fundamental research, 2 years. We published it in chemistry papers, angewandte chemistry. It was really an academic success. So we also got really high resonance in relevant media for that work that we did. So we thought, oh, that is really cool. That was really, we really thought this is showing that the technologies that we have developed, they are worth something. So then we took it, we thought, okay, how can we now take it further? How do we get that translated into a startup? And of course, we needed some funding. And in Germany, you actually have quite some really nice opportunities to translate research, academic projects into a startup, into something that might be investor ready. Exist VIP Plus. I think this is. I don't think this is existing anymore. Actually, I don't know. But back then it was still, and the M to the power 4 award in Bavaria and Go Bio as well. And that is what we wanted to do. So we wanted to apply for these funds and then get in an academic setting or at the university, start our own group and start to translate that, further develop these technology into being ready for a potential follow-up investment. So we applied for Exist and M to the power forward, and yeah, we're not successful at all. And this was a little bit, of course, not a downer, but we were quite surprised, because back then we thought, hey, the technology is so cool, and everybody tells us the technology is so cool, but we just didn't get the funding. And the reason for that actually was we do need a little bit additional data, but that was not the problem. We could just go into the lab and generate that data. But the key thing was really, you need to have a better unique selling point, and you need to have more market validation. And that was really something that we then tried to start working on. And we were not successful in the first time. It was really hard for us to do that translation or to get valuable market validation back then, because it was also a time, and I have to mention that, when this molecule format was really, there was no hype in that area, and people were really thinking, antibody drug conjugates, why are you doing that? It's not working, right? And then we actually came across that EIT Health, and back then they called it the Launchlab. And that's why actually, and I wanted to mention that, because that's where we got across EIT Health. And we found it actually in the web, and we didn't really know what it is all about. It was 2016. I had no clue what EIT Health is back then. But I read some keywords that I really liked. Europe-wide application, okay. 8-week validation program. Validation is good. Netherlands, Germany, France, Sweden. Primary goal, customer validation, and the promise, hey guys, you will meet 100 customers, potential customers. So I was like, okay, that is super cool. We need to do that. And back then we were still employees of the universities and the institutes, but we decided, okay, we need to take that 8 weeks and really get as much market validation as possible. We applied for that. We were super lucky. We got the approval, so we were taken for that. We convinced our former boss for that 8 weeks. And then we were actually the only biotech company there, and 9 medtech teams. It was in Delft, actually, the program. And this was actually really cool because these 9 medtech teams taught us how to pitch our business and our technology in a way that people understand it, that are not in biotech, that are not in pharma. And we had to learn, so it took us a little while, but at the end, everybody said, now I got it. And that was really super helpful. So it's sometimes also really cool to get out of your standard peers. We had peer-to-peer sessions, so it was really nice. And it was really showing the strong network that EIT Health had already built back then. So in the end, after 8 weeks, we talked to over 600 people, all relevant people. It's not like not relevant people, right? 130 of them were potential stakeholders. We got 5 letters of intent, 3 different countries. We were talking to 3 VC companies. And we also were then together with Somnox, another really great startup from the Netherlands, were awarded in this launch lab. And that was cool because with this validation, we actually completely right at the same day after that party, Jonas and I sat down on the computer again and wrote the applications again for Exist and M to the Power 4 award. And this time we were successful. And this was really good. We got actually both grants, and we were able then in total to get 3.4 million euros of grants, really setting the stage for Tubulis. And we were really able to do the important experiments that we then also knew that we need to do, because we talked to the people, what do you want to see if you want to invest, would want to invest? And that was super valuable for us. And today, as I mentioned, we are 15 people currently. We are growing, so I'm expecting over 20 by the end of the year, and really maturing the company into becoming a clinical stage company, and that is super exciting. And this is basically already what I wanted to talk to you about, and would be happy if we could, just discuss a little bit around these aspects.
Thank you so much, Dominik, for this this amazing journey and intro. How it started from something very small, and then thanks to validation and pushing that initial research between you and your colleague, not even in the same city, but quite a long distance between Berlin and München to get it going, and how, like, you know, things don't happen overnight, but like having the persistence made an impact. Now for the Q&A, if you want to ask a question from Dominik, you see that on the lower part there are different reactions. You can turn on your camera and wave a hand, or like put over there your hands up so I could see that you would like to ask a question. So feel free. Dominik can't bite. It's a Zoom call, so no need to be shy. And this is your unique opportunity if you are doing your research and want to kind of maybe currently are thinking like, should you team up, or like what you should do. Great time to ask feedback from Dominik. It seems like people are a bit shy, so maybe I ask a bit different question to start to think like, why did you started this, let's say, cancer research in the beginning? Like, what I have seen some other startups that usually there is like personal reason, and I know that sometimes in universities people are like given the topic of research by the professor during the master's studies or something like that. Was that something that you decided to research on based on your previous interest, or like it was initially years ago given by one of your professors? So
Well, actually, that was something where we thought, because it actually started as a technology development, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the initial idea, I was looking for a project that was where I already saw translational potential, because it was just something that I was that I wanted to do, and very early on,
Mm-hmm.
and because I think it's really for me it's a dream to develop a technology and then turn it into something that has really an impact for people, and that you can use for something that can make a change. And then so basically it was technology driven, right? And we could have also gone into a different direction, but at that time, and I mentioned it already, in 2016, this molecule format, antibody drug conjugates, there were really a lot of skepticisms out there because there were many clinical failures. So the skepticism was also for that it was real. So there was really problems with this molecule format, and we just, while developing these technologies, not in particular thinking of ADCs, we realized that we can solve these issues that these molecules have. And that's then when we decide, okay, this is the direction that we have to go.
Awesome. And I see this is a great journey, and I see that also people are warming up in the Q&A session. So I see that Sulfiane has a question. So Sulfiane, floor is yours. Ask Dominik.
Thank you very much. Yeah, do you hear me well, maybe?
Very well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dominik, for this really great presentation. I really projected myself into your pitch, and I have so many questions. Maybe I can ask some now and maybe some later.
Sure.
But well, I think that the first one would be you said that you weren't in the same location with your co-founder.
Yeah.
And so how does it work? You know, like when you have such a big mission to accomplish and such a big challenge to meet, and that you are in two different locations, how does the collaboration work? Is it really cool or not? Well, that's maybe just the first question, and the second one maybe, so you can have both questions, and
yeah,
I have others later on. When did you said, like, when did you decide to go and look for a business associate or a partner to integrate your company? Like, when did you say, well, now I need a business partner, and so let's start looking for a co-founder to join the company with the business background?
Yeah. So to the first question, there at some point you need to be at the same location, I believe. But in the beginning, this was really well possible, and the reason it went really smoothly is because there was a big foundation of trust underlying this, and this is also until today. How Jonas and I work together, and this was super important, and we are both at the same goal. And of course, we were. I mean, we were on the phone every single day. And back then, we were not using video conferences systems, but I think, we have been really working a lot on that progress together. And of course, we were also traveling a lot together. And back then, even, I mean, these travels where we really went out to validate and meet other people, this was also really valuable for us, because we just spent a lot of time together working on our dream, on our project.
Okay, so you knew each other a long time before starting this startup journey?
So actually, so when the first time we met was in 2013, I believe. And that's when we then started to develop the technologies. And then we've met quite often, and then we did these validation journeys, and then we filed for these grants. And then with these grants, that's actually when we took the whole project to Munich. Because with this grant, then we went to the university you file it via the university, and the university then gives you spaces, lab spaces to actually do these in Germany. And then I moved to Munich.
Okay.
And the second question is when to take business person. So, I mean, I did study business, but anyway, I think what is super critical and you need to be really open to is get external validation and feedback, and listen to people, talk to as many people as possible, and then as soon as it is feasible for the project and you really want to take it to getting funding and really then having a startup with external funds, I think it really makes a lot of sense. And get it early on, because you also need to know these people, whether you can get this trustful relationship with them. And I'm a big fan of that, and I think it is you need to get as much knowledge in your field, into your company as possible. So get people excited about it and try to get them to work with you. And this is important and will help you a lot.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Well, I still have other questions, but I will leave other people like to ask their questions and maybe later on. But thanks a lot for your feedback.
Yeah, that's super impressive. Actually, like when I saw your slide that you talked to 600 people, that's very impressive. And even more impressive was that 130 were already out of 600 identified as stakeholders. Like if you look like the classical law of diffusion of innovation and you know, the early adopters, this is considered to be like around 2%. So like on a classical thing, if out of talking to 600 people, 12 would say like, okay, let's do something, that would be already quite average result. But like instead of 12, you got 10 times more. So I think that was really impressive to see that kind of intake. But we have like plenty of people in the room. Anna-Marie, Miriam, Liana, and Karsten, what's your question to Dominik?
Can you tell me where to raise the hand, because this was something I was struggling with?
Oh, you can also wave on the video. That's good.
Okay,
yeah, the floor is yours, Anna-Marie. Yeah,
all right.
Go ahead.
One question, Dominik. Thank you very much for the insights. Really interesting, of course, being a Munich resident and dealing a lot with startups. Of course, I know your startup in a sense. My question is this other program you were talking about, this Launchlab, right? Is this something very comparable to the wildcard program that we are going through right now, or is it something completely different? And when being the winner of this Launchlab, did you get any funding from EIT side as well?
Yeah. So back then, I have no idea how they call it. How they call it now.
Is it a wild? I mean, are we talking about the same? Is it the wildcard?
No, it's not. It's not.
No, it's not the wildcard program.
Yeah.
I think it's a maybe they call it validation lab now. I don't know, but they changed the name. And back then, actually, you got when you got to the program, they funded you the travel and everything. And so that was super great. And we it was super intense weeks, but super exciting weeks. And then back then they were, I don't know, maybe they have funding now, but back then they didn't have additional funding.
Okay. I think the real big win is not the funding actually, but the experience and the access to all those customers that you got, right? Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Okay.
And this is something that I learned we do ever since. You talk to the people, try to find out what they actually want to see, even if it's, I mean, if I don't know today what a potential partner wants to see in 2 years or in 1 year, then I can do the stuff and prepare it if it's important for me, of course. And then I have the data available. Right?
But how do I have to imagine this access to the target group? I mean, was it like they gave you a list of people who to talk, or what, did they make any kind of introductions or whatsoever? Or?
Everything. Not
Okay.
just the list, but they
the whole
I mean, the network, EIT Health, is super powerful.
Like the door opener to
They
everyone.
just did so many. We had every day we had networking events every day. So we met every day with a lot of people, and then the only task was go to them and talk to them. Don't be shy. Talk to everyone. And that's how we were able to talk to all these people.
Wow. Cool.
And a quick note also on behalf of EIT Health is that every year the programs are changing, and that's why it's good to kind of subscribe for the news at eithealth.eu. So if you are a founder watching us today or later on the YouTube, you can always go to eithealth.eu, subscribe for the newsletter, and also alumni.eithealth.eu, and subscribe for events like this where you can find those people across Europe that maybe, again, you're like a small city tinkering with the technology alone. But if you kind of like talk to people like Dominik and Jonas did, talk to 600 people in our network, like in alumni network already, we have more than 2,000 people. You can validate and get the next steps forward by improving your pitch, by improving the value proposition, finding partners, and later also funding. But let's carry on. We have more people in the room. Karsten, do you have a question for Dominik? Go ahead.
Hi, Dominik. I just saw your. I just saw the email. I'll call you later too. I can just like encourage everyone to just get in touch with EIT and also like the older semesters of EIT and to ask them questions. The only thing I would be interested in is what are your future plans, Dominik, with your company? So it's not really EIT related, but like, have you thought about specs or something like that? You know, a spec, SPA. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in my world, I think you always need to think about all the options that are available. And I think currently, of course, this is something that has been done a lot, right? And I mean, just look at the last year, what happened also at the NASDAQ. So I think there's a lot going on, and but I don't know. I'm not so sure, and I'm also not the person to judge how long this window will still be open. But I think, yeah, I think everybody who is in biotech and pharma and has a startup and is looking for money or is in general in that space should be thinking about these aspects, unless you don't need the money. But I mean, it's clear we are, and this is to the rest of your question. We are a drug development company, so we are using our technologies to build a strong differentiated pipeline, driving that to the clinics. So this is quite expensive, right?
Awesome, thank you.
Well, thank you, Karsten, for the question, and everybody else, if you do have questions, feel free to let us know. This is a great opportunity to ask tips from seasoned entrepreneur how to develop your startup from your research. And we have another question from Sulfiane. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks again. I have maybe one last question, yeah, about, you know, because like I'm also a researcher. I'm developing my project right now, and it's going very well. I already started receiving the first fundings, and I'm wondering when is the right time to create the startup, you know, because now I'm still at the project phase, and then there is also this date where you say like, well, now it's time to create the startup, to create the entity, and then to start being a company. When did this hit you?
So basically, in our case, what we in Germany, and I'm not just speaking for Germany, because these funds that I mentioned, these non-dilutive funds, Axis, M to the power of 4, they have a they have a requirement. You are not supposed to be funded already. So there are quite some funding opportunities that dictate you not to be funded. And this is not an issue. This is good, because then you get these non-dilutive fundings and you can use that money to build that company. And then within the program, you are good to go and fund the company. And also, what is I think, and you cannot generalize that, but I think what is a good moment to actually fund a company is when there is a requirement that you actually have it. Because I mean, in the end, if it's a project and you give it a name and it's basically looks like a startup, that's also fine. But if there's a requirement, for example, you now need to have IP in the startup. Okay. Then you should fund the startup. But look also at other alternative funding opportunities and whether they enable you to actually do that or not. Because I wouldn't, it's just good money, it's valuable money, it's great programs. Try to get them.
Okay. Maybe one of the related questions to this from this side would be like, I think in most of the countries, maybe that's the case also in Germany, that if you're doing research for an institution, I think the IP belongs to the university. And I think you mentioned in your speech also like the IP transfer out of the school into your startup. How easy it is to actually approach the university that, hey, you know, I was doing research for you, but now I want to go my own way. Can I license this technology, or can I take my research that I've been doing in my master's and PhD years and now use it to actually build a successful company?
Yeah. So I think in general, the university and also the institutes, they have a great interest in actually getting IP into startups, getting it translated, getting technologies out there. And I think it's also good because, especially at the beginning, if you're doing the research and then file for the patents, it takes a little while until you get the funding to actually take them by your own. So it's actually good that there's a university that is able to cover all these costs that are not small, right? I think I would just openly discuss and very early on talk to the people that are involved there, build a relation with them, and then start early on in discussing what are potential ways to get that out there. And here again, talk to different people about that, try to get as much knowledge about that as possible, because I think there's quite some things that you can do wrong, and then you end up in doing renegotiations again, which is also fine and not a problem. But yeah, I think I would do that really early on. Be open and discuss it. But I don't see, there's no problem in general about that.
And following on this talking with people, like, I think one of the most complicated tasks as a CEO is finding those people to talk to. That did you find it easier to find those people to talk to, and as you have been now also expanding the team to much bigger than initial 2 of you, now we are like 15 people, is it easier to find molecules and microparticles, or is it easier to find those people who would join the innovation war or a battle with you?
No, I think it's so and so. Sometimes you find the people, it just happens by chance, and you find them and they're excited and they want to work with you. And sometimes you have positions where it takes a little longer. But yeah, again, a good network is really helping there as well.
And again, reminder for everyone, feel free to let us know if you do have a question. type in the chat or give a handshake. And I see another handshake from Sufiana. Next question is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, I have so many questions for you, man. But I will try to stop myself.
We can also follow on.
Yeah, definitely. You were talking also about the VCs, and that like 3 VCs were interested by your project and wanted to invest in it. And so maybe, yeah, it's a follow-up question to the previous one, but when is the right time to make VCs enter into your capital? You know, because they generally love to invest in startups that don't need money, but then they propose to you money, and then like you're keen to say yes. So when did you say that now is the right time to have external investors, private investors coming in and helping me with this adventure? And was it a good experience from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I wouldn't say that VCs only invest in companies when they don't need it. I think this is not the case. And again, here, I believe it's really important to find out what is actually the interest in the startup, and what is actually things that are missing, and what are the key things that investor might see, what is the key strategy. Just get as much knowledge in there as possible. And then, I mean, for us, it was just, okay, we want to go now the next steps, take it to the next level. And for that, it was clear we can only do that with external capital. No chance, not at all without that. And that's why we obviously then went out, and it takes as long as people actually say it takes. So it took quite a while. So you also need to calculate that in.
Yeah, because like the trap in this, or if we can call this a trap, is that like the early on they invest on the startup, the highest amount of shares they will get for not such a highest, like for not such a lot of money, you know, that compared if they invest years later on, you know. But that's the game. And
then you need to ask the question to yourself: what kind of company do I want to build? What do I need for that? Do I have these resources now, or do I need to have additional resources? And then if you come up with the fact that you need these additional resources because you now want to build that company, then it's the right time. And then you need to find the right investor, because this is also, I mean, they do due diligence on you, you need to do due diligence on them as well. And you need to find that consortium that is actually where you think, okay, we can build this company together. And this is, I believe, is super, super important. And then in the end, I know everybody is always super keen about the shares and the amount of shares. There are many other things in these contracts that are hurting even more. So yeah, it's the package that needs to fit, right? It's the entire package that needs to support you and being incentivized and build a company that you want to build.
But then did you have like a number in your head, like you were saying, I shouldn't give more than maybe, I don't know, 5% or 10% of my company? Like, did you have a kind of threshold that you didn't want to reach, or it was like a pure negotiation with them?
No, I think you shouldn't go into a negotiation and discussions about these things. And this is not only considering the shares, but the entire package, without having a clear picture of what is important for you. And Ingo, our business developer, he is actually teaching us a really valuable thing all the time from the really beginning on: have 2 options. Because maybe I mean, in the end, you all want to come to an end where you all can work together. And maybe one option is hurting you more, and then you have another one that is hurting you and the investor less, and then you can come up with with a good solution. Yeah? So I think you should be really well aware of what different aspects mean for you, and if this is still okay for you. Because in the end, if you're not incentivized anymore, this is also something that, I mean, nobody wants, right? Also not the investor, because they are also investing in you when you build a startup, because you are the persons that are driving that forward. Yeah.
Okay.
You need to be ahead of the game, but the only thing I wanted to say is that it's not only about shares, it's the entire package. There are other things that can even hurt more.
Probably also connections, and it seems that this is a topic we can also run maybe a full-on webinar, how to do the funding, and what are the aspects to consider, both monetarily and also other nuggets of legal pre-rata rights and everything else. But in the meantime, we also got one more question, and this one is linked to the licenses and IP, and Karsten is asking, are you still working on the licenses from your university time, or is now, like on the latest development, your company owning all the IP that you're developing?
We have both. So the early IP is licensed in, and we now have also our own. So it's really, IP for us is really super important, and that's why I also think it's really important to have good license deals. And maybe, Carsten, you're hinting towards that, to then also buy in the IP that you have licensed. Of course, these are all things that you should already negotiate on early on, that you have these options. Exactly.
Well, thank you for this insight. I think it's just like, yeah, you have to tie in the strategy and make sure that you have the right to work on, and probably also even investors, they value more when you are owning and having the full working rights, not only for the IP of your product, but also even like within the team, that everybody has done like proper legal arrangements, that like founder agreements and everything on. We still have a few minutes. You can think about in the audience, what would be your last question from Dominik. In between, if you would change something in your journey, like looking back, I mean, there is a nice time machine you could like buy in the shop later tonight, and you would go back in time. What would that one thing you would change in your company journey? What was the really biggest mistake that you would like to correct to even be more successful today?
I think this is, I cannot answer that, because in the end, every time something went wrong, it opened another door. And this is my experience from that journey. And I mean, every other week, something goes wrong and something unexpected happens, but every other week, something great happens. So cannot say. Everything happens for a reason. This is a bit poetic, but maybe like that.
Well, or maybe it's like the weather, it's like, you have sunny days and sometimes there is a hurricane, but the fact that you have a hurricane maybe makes you even more appreciate those sunny days more. We have one last question coming in, and Karsten, I see that you have raised your hand, so go ahead and ask Dominik.
I think what Dominik just said is a very important entrepreneurial skill he has, and it means if you have problems, it's a very good skill to come out even stronger than before. And this is what everyone faces in their companies, I guess, having huge problems and being able to deal with them in a way so you gain strength, you gain forward movement, and so on. And I think this is a really good lesson Dominik just told us there.
Thank you, Carsten.
Thank you, Carsten, for this insight. And in the last minutes, we have also one last question from Sufiana.
Okay. Yeah, promise that will be my last one.
Okay.
Maybe I missed it during the presentation. I don't know if you went abroad with your solution, or is it still like only in Germany? And if so, when did you make that pivot and convince yourself that now is the time to go and try to conquer maybe like Europe or America, or I don't know?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the life science business is and drug development business is super international. So I think that it's different than to other startups where you really make the decision. Okay, now I start selling my product to customers in the US. So in general, it is from the beginning international, and we are talking to, and we are doing business with people all over the world. But yeah, I mean, our headquarters, we are in Munich, and it. I think this is a super environment here, and let's see what we will do in the future. But we will sure stay here in Munich. Okay, thank you, and thanks a lot for all these insights. It was really great meeting you and learning a lot and more about your journey.
Thank you, Sufyan, for the question, and also thank you, Carsten, Anna-Marie, and everybody else that were dialing in today. If there are somebody who is watching this session as a replay on YouTube and would like to reach you out, Dominik, what's the best way? I mean, is it okay that other EIT Health alumni community members would reach you out? And if so, what's the best way to reach you out? Yeah, I mean, you can always reach out to me via LinkedIn, for example, or via our homepage is also possible. This is, but LinkedIn I think is perfect, right? Yeah, and happy. Yeah, just reach out if you have questions. Might be that it takes a little while until I respond, but at some day I usually do. But I think that's like also what you said in your journey, that, you know, maybe sometimes the first attempt is not successful, but, you know, maybe also refine your ask. Then if you refine your ask, you can get what you want also from the people you are reaching out to. Yeah. I see also Miriam raising their hands. And what's your last words, Miriam?
Didn't raise my hand. I was just applauding, Timo.
Oh, okay.
Great. It's been good fun. Thank you so much, Dominik.
Oh God, it's like the light is blasting in my face and I'm trying to look into the webcam. Sometimes it's like, what is the icon I see on the screen? Yeah, this is the days having these virtual sessions that things are a bit more tricky. But thank you everyone for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the session and you found it valuable. The good thing is we are hosting these sessions regularly. Today, you had this nice opportunity to ask the questions from and hear the journey from Dominik Schumacher from Tubulis, based in Germany, München. If you want to see the other episodes of Coffee with the CEO session, you can visit our alumni rewind section at the alumni.eithealth.eu or check out the other videos on our YouTube channel where you might be watching this episode as well. And subscribe to the events if you are also not yet EIT Health alumni member. Good news is, if you're dialing in today or watching this session, you are eligible for dialing in and becoming our alumni member. So if you're not yet a member, go to alumni.eithealth.eu, hit the join button, mention that you were joining in the session with Dominik Schumacher and you want to be part of this community to kind of network with all the other more than 2,000 health tech innovators across Europe and beyond. That's it for the recording part. I think, Robin, you can hit the button. And